Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Texas Podcast. I'm your host, Gabe, and today we'll be talking about the Siege of Fort Texas. The Siege of Fort Texas marked the beginning of active campaigning by the armies of the United States in Mexico during the Mexican-American War. The battle was sometimes called the Siege of Fort Brown. Major Jacob Brown, not to be confused with the War of 1812, General Jacob Brown, was one of the two Americans killed in action. On March 28, 1846, the Army of Occupation under General Zachary Taylor reached the north bank of the Rio Grande. Taylor ordered Captain Joseph K. Mansfield to construct an earthen star fort for 800 men named Fort Texas. The fort was garrisoned by 500 men under Major Jacob Brown, including the 7th Infantry Captain Allen Loud's 4 18-pounders and Lieutenant Braxton Bragg's field artillery. Mexican General Francisco Millejas' 2,000 men also erected similar fortifications, including for his 20 cannons for 800 men upstream at the Las Anesuitas ferry crossing, called Fort Paredes, in two redoubts about 800 yards from Taylor's camp, placing it in a crossfire. The largest cannon was a 12-pounder. Following the Thornton Affair, Mexican forces under General Mariano Arista crossed the Rio Grande and then besieged Fort Texas after realizing that on the 1st of May, Taylor had taken most of his forces to Fort Polk on Point Isabel to protect his supply depot. At dawn on the 3rd of May, 1846, Mexican forces bombarded Fort Texas but were silenced by the American response, although the Mexican artillery down the river was more successful. Loud attempted to set fire to Matamoros with hot shot. Mexican fire stopped at 7:30 p.m., the Americans at 11 p.m., and on the 4th of May, Mexican guns and a mortar were placed on the northern bank of the Rio Grande, and on the 5th of May, General Pedro de Ampudia arrived with 1,230 men and 4 guns. Since Ampuria's artillery was too light to breach the earthworks and the infantry declined to make an assault, the siege continued until the 9th of May, with General Antonio Canales Rocio's irregular cavalry astride the Point Isabel Road, preventing supplies from reaching the fort. Captain Edgar S. Hawkins took command of Fort Texas when Major Brown was mortally wounded on May 6th at 10 o'clock. When Arista demanded the fort surrender at 4:30 that afternoon, Hawkins responded with, "My interpreter is not skilled in your language, but if I understand you correctly, I must respectfully decline to surrender." As soon as it became clear Taylor was leaving Fort Polk, Arista moved his army from his camp at Teques del Romeño to block Taylor's path, leading to the battles of Palo Alto and Resaca de la Palma. Though the confrontation at Fort Texas lasted 6 days with periods of heavy cannon fire, casualties were remarkably low. Only 2 U.S. soldiers died in the bombardment. Major Brown was struck in the leg by a cannonball on the 6th of May and survived for several days only to die on the 9th of May, just hours before the siege ended. Despite his wound, Major Brown had helped maintain troop morale throughout the siege, thus contributing to the success of the defense of the fort. Mexican leaders reported 2 killed and 2 wounded from American artillery fire during the siege. The effect of artillery fire on the civilian population of Matamoros is unknown. Laundress and cook Sarah Borgins, who refused to take shelter during the siege but instead provided food and coffee to the American troops, was named Heroine of Fort Brown by American newspapers. That is all for the Siege of Fort Texas. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.